Let's talk about same-sex marriage. You said a few years ago that you were evolving on that issue. Where are you?
I mean, I'm just, Jake, I'm for traditional marriage.
George Takei, what would you like to say to Donald Trump?
Well, as a matter of fact, I did have a conversation with him, and we finally agreed to disagree. He was for traditional marriage, despite the fact that he'd been married 3 times. That is not traditional.
Regardless of where you fall on the issue of marriage and whatever you think of Donald Trump, it's pretty clear that George Takei is right. By any definition, getting married 3 times is not traditional marriage. I think this interaction between Takei and Donald Trump is pretty telling when it comes to the discussion surrounding marriage in our country. When there are countless examples around us of things that clearly aren't traditional marriage, it becomes difficult to understand why some people are fighting so vehemently against gays getting married.
Gay people getting married and people getting upset. Why are we getting upset? Why? I don't understand. We don't even respect marriage. Why are you worrying about them doing it? Come on, man. The divorce rate is like 70%. Right? And the Catholic Church was like, this is going. I was like, hey, y'all need to sit down. Y'all got some other to deal with.
What I want to explore in this video is what we Catholics get wrong about marriage. But in order to do that, we have to start by understanding what the Catholic Church teaches about marriage in the first place. According to the Church's Catechism, which is like a rule book for Catholics, marriage is a covenant by which a man and a woman establish between themselves a partnership of the whole of life, and which is ordered by its nature to the good of the spouses and the procreation and education of offspring. Within this definition are the 4 major pillars of marriage, as understood by the Church, comprised of 2 conditions and 2 purposes, or ends. So, what do we Catholics get wrong? Well, pretty much all of it. The Catholic divorce rate is strikingly similar to every other divorce rate, so we're clearly not following through on the lifelong condition. And while the divorce rate obviously undermines the idea that marriage leads to the good of the spouses, even those who do stay married aren't necessarily better off or happy. In fact, some statistics indicate that married couples become less happy over time. And as far as children go, the birth rate among Catholics isn't substantially different than everyone else. And despite the Church's prohibition against contraception, Catholic couples still use it at effectively the same rate as the rest of the world. It all boils down to this. Despite the rules laid out by the Church, we Catholics aren't really all that different from everyone else. So what's left? If Catholics are largely ignoring 3 of the 4 pillars of marriage, why doesn't the Catholic Church just loosen up? The answer is because the fullness of the Catholic understanding of marriage is pivotal to the success of society. What we have to understand about all of the Church's rules is that they're not so much about saying no to a negative set of behaviors, as they are about encouraging a positive set of behaviors, and the same applies to the definition of marriage. As understood by the Church, marriage is about creating a stable unit for the raising of healthy and well-adjusted children into productive, positive, and happy members of society. In order for that to happen, these children need to see authentic examples of self-sacrifice, so that they, in turn, can learn to sacrifice. They need to be supported by the stable love of their parents, which stands as the foundation upon which they build their own lives and their own understanding of love. They need true examples of masculinity and femininity, what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman. With this foundation, children grow into adults who understand the meaning and purpose of their own lives and are able to pass that on to their own children and to the people around them. This is the Church's vision for marriage. It's good and beautiful, and it's what we should be striving for. And when we provide anything less, we're falling short. So where do we go from here? Well, first, as Catholics, we need to take the time ourselves to understand what marriage truly is, and why Christ, through his church, established it that way. Once we do that, we will be equipped to go out and live the vocation of marriage authentically and attractively. It's also important that we support and encourage those who are living the vocation of marriage. That young couple with 2 kids who sits in front of you at Mass, have you let them know you're inspired by their openness to life? What about the wise old couple that sits behind you? Have you spent time learning from their wisdom? Typically, a video like this would end with a clever play on words or a call to action. Instead, let's end with a question. In your life, who has been an inspirational example of the beauty of marriage, and have you encouraged them? It's time for us to seek these people out and hold them up for the whole world to see that this is traditional marriage.